paper friends. Welcome to the latest episode of paperdag, paper talk. I need to do a voiceover today because my microphone was not working and it is currently has been moved into the trash. So I wanted to revisit with you my ink and fountain pen journal, which has morphed into a fail because what was I thinking? I have a lot of fountain pens and I reserved only half of this notebook for fountain pens. And of course, that's not going to work in the long run. And I just didn't think it through. I wanted to have everything in the same book. But now I had a great idea. So what I plan to do is to use the fountain pen section of this for my currently inked notes and keep doing the ink pages at the end of the notebook, but then use another book for my fountain pen as a chronicle, catalog, logbook, whatever you want to call it. And I have had this beautiful book for a while. It's a children's book where I just adore the illustrations, and I had it made by a company. They sit in Salt Lake City, and but I in Utah, but I just can't think of the name right now. But so here's the deal. They cut your book and then they add notebook pages, and but I don't like to write on the left side of the book, and I've been using a knitting notebook for that purpose, but this one I was so uncertain about because I don't like to write on the left side because I don't like to have my hand on the spiral binding. But of course, I don't even need to do that because I can just keep the notes about the fountain pen on the right side, and on the left side I add the pictures that I take of the fountain pens. And I already started doing that, so for most pens, I think I take about 3 pictures, one from the outside, one outside with cap on, one cap off, and then a close up of the nib. And as you can see, it's going to work perfectly because on those pages, the left side is blank, perfect for the pictures. So I think I'm determined that's what I want to do, and I already started taking some pictures with my nice camera to have good pictures. Yeah, and I'm of course going to do my printouts. So I really like these books, but as a knitting notes book, it turned out not to be so practical because I switched sometimes from travel notes to knitting notes to design ideas, and that just proved to be not a good idea because you could not find things in the book later, so it's very confusing. So I decided not to do that anymore. And I've done that. I'm not doing it anymore. I have separated certain writing, like knitting notebook and journaling and my inks and all. And here, this is my current journal, and I'm still doing the notebooks where I don't have too many pages because I still find a large amount of pages kind of daunting. And I because I struggle with what I journal and to well to it sounds so weird to say, to come up with something to write about, but that's just what it is. And so it's makes it a lot easier for me, I should say, a lot less challenging to have a less fat book to fill when I journal, even though I want to be that person who fills a big fat book. Yeah, this is a Clairefontaine, and I'm adding cutouts, and here I put a pocket in to keep this beautiful card tucked in there. And the cover was a page from a children's book and a card that a friend had gifted me. So these are the pens that are currently inked. I'm at 11, and that's okay. That's okay. I want to write. I write. I do write long letters. It's so funny that I can write and go on and fill a notepad and write an 8, 10 page long letter, yet in my own journal I have a hard time. And in fact, I thought about that today, and I thought, Mom, maybe I should write myself a letter. Maybe that would make journaling easier for myself. Today I decided to to do the currently inked writing samples on a notepad, which used to be my daughter's. She used to collect all the paper related stuff with this little mouse, and the kids were kind of crazy. They would collect them. I mean, lots of kids would collect them, and then they would trade the different designs. And you would have a binder with clear protective sheets, and you would have a sample of all the different designs, and you would try to hunt down something that you were missing, and all that happening in Germany, of course, when we spent our summers there. It's the first time in, I can't even remember how long, that we could not go to Germany this summer, by the way. Yeah, the paper she's not interested in, of course, anymore. So I just kept them because it's not too bad, this paper. It's nice for letters, even though it's kind of silly for me to, to use. But sometimes I do use them. Yeah. So this is the one of the pens that my husband gave me, and I love it. It's a Waterman Edson Sapphire, and it has a super broad nib. And it's really a joy to write with, especially when you clean it and take care of it. Or I've confessed to you that I'm not always the best, or I have not always been the best in doing that and in taking care of my pens, but I'm doing better. I'm doing actually really great. I would never do that again. So the ink currently looks darker than when I put it in. This is the Rohrer und Klingner Altgoldgrün. I'm pronouncing that very German. And I'm thinking that maybe initially when I inked it up, it still had water in it, a little bit of moisture, and that diluted this beautiful dark green. I would think that's what it is. Yeah, if you compare here, this is really a lot lighter. Yeah, I must have just inked it. Yeah. Yeah, and also in the book it also looks darker. More like how it looks like right now. Next up is a Schaefer, and I decided to use another one after Heidi's Schaefer ran out of ink. This one also has a fine nib, and but I must say it's a better writer than the other one. Still takes cartridges, and it has an engraving saying AE. Very someone was very extravagant. Makes me want to guess the name of the previous owner. Probably got that from a German flea market or from a some kind of a secondhand store, thrift store type of thing. I think I've had it for a long time, and got it in Germany. And this is, of course, my vintage Pelican, the one that you have already seen. It's a very smooth, wonderful rider. The ink flow is great, and can't think of anything bad about it. It doesn't matter that it has that stain on the body, where I don't know how that happened, but it doesn't bother me because I don't plan to sell any of my pens for that matter. It's really a good writer. I have the same pen, which looks much newer in a way, so I'm curious to see how that one is. I think that nib is finer. And this is a Faber-Castell, which is a simple German school pen of its day. And I just love how this guy writes. It's very smooth and nice and juicy, and I've inked it with a sample, which was a Diamine Arctic Blue shimmer, actually. And I may have mentioned that before, that I'm not too much into blue inks because the pens for school had to be inked with blue always, especially when you were young. Probably not so much in high school, but I mean, nobody cared about anything in high school, I would say. But the shimmer ink, oh, I love it. Yeah, always. Now what you see is a new pen. It is my new Monteverde Giant Sequoia Green. Recently, my friend Debbie visited, and we went to a local paper store, and that's Penny Smith's. And they have fountain pens, paper, very nicely curated place. And well, if you don't want to buy a pen, you better not go to a fountain pen store. I could not resist. I think we spent 3 hours at that place. Crazy. Yeah, so yeah, I love this pen. I love that it's so fat and how it feels in my hand. Nice big nib and a good writer, juicy with a B nib also, which I don't know, nothing compares to that Waterman up there, the number one. So if you think that this one is also a B, does not compare to that Waterman up there. I have inked it with an ink that just has the brand Oma's on the ink bottle and no colorway name. It's a nice burgundy red. Yeah, really nice pen with a converter. And I did compare these two, and I could not. I thought that the Waterman would be heavier, but no, didn't think so when I held them each in a hand. So now I brought another one of my vintage Cavicos, coming most likely from my dad, I would assume. And I am not sure about the name for this one. It says something like AL, and I tried to find some information online, but I was not successful. It's a wonderful writer. Of course, somehow, because the nib is very flexible, you cannot, it's not, how can I say, it's more delicate in a way. You have to be more purposeful when you write, but I don't mind at all. So I just love using it, and I wanted to give you a sample of how flexible the nib is. It's just totally crazy. Super flex and super good ink flow. And we've been doing some research, Debbie more than me, where it turns out that really these folks back in the days, they did much better in creating pens that had a good saturated ink flow, and where you still could do these beautiful lines with a nice variation for a beautiful document script, maybe. Yeah, it's really very impressive how this one works. And it's smooth. I mean, it makes sound when you write, which you cannot hear because of my broken microphone. But yeah, and here's the new one. And in comparison, it's a Kaviku Sport, which I had to get when they just came out with them, and you can get a tiny converter for these guys. I was flicking it to make the air bubble move from the bottom, or to get the ink to drop. This guy has a double B nib, but I still think that it's no comparison to that Waterman with, you know, double B. And I've inked this guy with a new ink, which is Aurora Borealis by Diamine. It's a beautiful, dark, rich teal, which made me think that I have to dye up my Aurora Borealis again because I have a wonderful colorway, same name. Lots of colors in that one. Mm. Next is this guy that you've already seen in the last episode. It's a simple school pen, and I confess that I am getting tired of it in a way. And I think it's a combination of the pen and the ink color. I put in brown ink from a sample, and the pen is black, and there's just nothing exciting about neither pen nor ink color, even though I must say I am not opposed to brown, but I think too much of brown is too much. Yeah, school pen. I assume back in the day this was probably not an expensive pen, but it writes well. I have no complaints other than my own restless color lusting self got in the way. What's next? Ba-dum. This is my vintage Parker Duofold. I got this at an Albuquerque pen show, and no, vintage pen show, and oh, it writes, yeah, just beautiful. It has a very similar nib to the Pelikan 400, and I feel that they both of these guys have make the same sound on paper, and but the Parker has a stub nib, I think that's what it's called, and the Pelikan has a it's a an italic stub. Is that maybe the word I would think so. Yeah, I inked this. I think it's already the second fill with Diamine Orange because I thought for fall I need orange, and this one is just so nice and bright and cheerful. I'm a sucker for a good orange anyways, no matter where and how, in yarn or clothing in general or whatever it is. Yeah, that was the Pelikan in comparison with the Parker, and the yeah. I wish you could hear the sound. Too bad. Yeah, there's a new kid in town. When we went to the paper store, Debbie and I, we um didn't want to buy any pens, of course. How many did we buy? Too many? No, there's no such thing as too many pens. But in the end, I wanted to buy a broad nib for my Lamy, the yellow one that you've seen before. And the very last second I checked on the price and I thought, oh my gosh, I can almost get a new pen just for the nib. So I said, no, 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 I'm not going to do that. When I come back, I'm going to buy a pen with a broad nib. And then sweet Debbie said, hey, this is going to be my late birthday present for you. And yeah, so I got to pick the pen, and of course it had to be the turquoise pen. And I love this. I love everything about this guy. And I've already gone through the second filling of ink, which is Diamine Shimmer yet again. The Spearmint Diva. Yeah, it's such a cool pen. Yeah, and the converter is just perfect for the Lamy. Excuse me. Lamy All-Star Tourmaline. Yep, and the ink that matches so well that you never want to fill it with anything else. So thank goodness that's not just a sample, but that is the whole I have a whole big bottle. Yeah, it's a very nice rider still. Again, not like the Waterman way on top there. That's the fattest rider. But this one still, I think this is a little broader in how it writes than the Double B Caveco, which is interesting. Yeah. Next, of course, the other Caveco that I had to ink. Oh no, we did that already. Never mind. I just wanted to say that again about the nib comparison. Yeah, and then since oh gosh, I said that several times. No ink, no more pens in October. What did I do? I ordered more ink and a bunch of pens. But I can't resist a sweet price, and this is a hero pen made in China for sale on Amazon in a 4-pack. 4 different colors. I think the other ones are blue, red, and black, green. Not sure. I think, yeah. I don't think green in this one. Yeah, the cool thing is really about this guy that I haven't touched it in a few days, but yet it immediately starts writing. Love the look. And, well, the price was incredible. I paid for 4 fountain pens, $20. Yeah, that's totally crazy. I have not quite figured out how to best fill this because it has a converter, but one of those where you squeeze it together and then you let go and it sucks. So it squeezes out the air and then it sucks in the ink. But if you squeeze again, you squeeze out your ink. So it doesn't do you any good. So I've tried a lot of stuff, and I actually, I, put the the nib upward and try to squeeze out air and then pull it back out into the ink, put it back into the ink. But I could not get it to work to where you get a full tank. However, and I don't think I'm opening it right now because I filmed German and English in sequence, and I think I opened it in the German episode, and I saw that the tank was half full, so not too bad for not being able to figure it out. Ink dried extremely fast. This was some custom ink that came with a specific pen many years ago. Probably, I don't know if probably never bought it with the pen, but that's why it's called For Nature pen. And yeah, it's a small ink bottle. I tried to compare it with the diamine orange, but that one's definitely lots brighter. Already, if you look up there, definitely more vibrant orange. I wanted to do the flex test with the Lamy, but it's just not too much of a flexible nib. Yeah. What am I doing now? Can't recall. Probably comparing the double B nib yet again. I really sometimes don't mind the fine nibs. I already talked about that another time because it's so it's so how can I say so you get to a certain into a certain situation or onto a certain paper or whatever you want to say where you like to write small, and you can't do that with a fatter, broader nib. I have to say another thing that I like about that Hero pen is that it was, I know it was cheap, and it feels cheap also, but it writes very smoothly. And so I can totally throw that in my purse and not worry about it breaking or me losing it or, you know, because it's going to be fine. Even if I do, break it or lose it, it's okay. It was nothing expensive. I think if, yeah, a better pen you would, of course, keep in a special case or something. Yeah. Of course, not this guy. Well, I don't know. I don't carry any pens around because I don't work out of the house right now.